What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the major sports leagues, NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL, you name it. We're here, whether it be games, highlights, tier lists, news, all that fun stuff. And in today's episode, if you haven't already, I believe we posted it last week, our fantasy players that, will surprise, maybe rise or, taken lower than expected, and we think will outperform their expectations. But with that being said, so we have our surprises. But today, unfortunately, we're also maybe going to have some disappointments, players that we think will, maybe are being drafted higher than their value. There was really no criteria drafted higher than the value, maybe just underperformance, some variance, just not get the respect they deserve, kind of whether it be, due to team change or just, whatever we think is due for regression. Nick, I'm curious to hear your list. You already said I have some assumptions of mine made up. But with that being said, I'm curious. So I have a list of about 4 to 5 players here.
I have 5. So if you want to do 5, we can do 5.
Okay. So, do you want first pick? How do you want to do this?
I'll give you first pick because I feel like I know a few guys who you're going to pick. So.
Yeah, you said you do. So I'm curious. All right. So with my first pick, and I want anyone who's watching this not to get mad. This doesn't mean the player sucks. I have a couple players here that I think are obviously really good, but I think I just feel like it's due for regression in some way, just because of various circumstances, and it doesn't mean they'll be horrible. Just means I think they'll underperform a little bit. And the first name I got.
This is no disrespect to any players.
Because a lot of these players are ballers that I have on my list, yes. And there's a reason why I think they'll disappoint because they have high expectations put to their name. The first one I've got is new wide receiver of the Chicago Bears, Keenan Allen. He's being drafted, high 4th round, around there. And just for me, new scheme change, or he's going to the Bears. I think Caleb Williams is going to be good, but you never know with a rookie quarterback. And with that, you still have DJ Moore there as the wide receiver 1. They drafted a Dunze top 10, who's expected to play, immediate snaps right away. And, Keenan Allen is going to be there, but that's 3 heavy hitters. You still got Cole Kmet. There's just a lot of weapons. And, if Caleb Williams sucks, which would be unfortunate, I can only imagine how much each player's fantasy would drop. But even if he's really good or, good right away, because I'm not expecting him, to have a rookie year, the best rookie year of all time, like CJ Stroud. That's just, unfair to give expectations to. But I'm expecting him to be really good, or I'm expecting him to be good. But with that being said, there's still a lot of mouths to feed. From a wide receiver 1. To, a solid wide receiver 2, but, if a Dunze pops up and it makes me impact, that could be a 3rd, and Cole Kmet is already a good security blanket there. So I just think there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed, and I don't know if he should be drafted that high, given, I think the expectation, another year older, it's going to be tough to, produce at such a high level consistently.
That's a pick. He's not on my list, but that is a pick I can definitely see happening. Just he's had injury issues and
not true injury issues. Just
it is the Bears too, so you never know.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of high expectations on the rookie quarterback, a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a riskier pick. I think people are making assumptions about. So
yeah, no, I don't mind that pick at all, even though I don't have him on my list. That's still he'd probably be. I have 5 people. He's probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So anyways, now going into my first pick is another Chicago Bear. I think you'll agree with this one because I know you said you're not the highest on him. I have DeAndre Swift being my top, or not my top, but my first pick for potential fantasy bust. Like you said, a lot of mouths to feed. They're still building that O-line. And, the game we talked about it yesterday with the running back rankings. The games he did have a breakout game, he wasn't getting touched for the first 7, 8, 9.
I remember he had 175 yards against the Vikings, and it wasn't him doing the work. It was Jason Kelce and that offensive line.
And I don't think the Bears' offensive line is nearly that good. So I think he might struggle a little bit behind that O-line. Rookie quarterback, still learning the ropes. A newer offense that's, still trying to figure out who they are. Like the Eagles, they knew their identity when he went there. They were a run-heavy team, or not a run-heavy team, but like a power running team. They knew they wanted to run the ball down your throat. So I think in a new system, it might be tough for him to sort of break out and have like a crazy fantasy year like some people usually expect him to have, because he's shown flashes of 30-point fantasy performances. I know it was like it might have been his first or second year with the Lions where he really had a good year. So I think he's my first potential, I want to say underperformer. I won't say bust. I'll say underperformer.
Okay. I like that one. Unique one. Yeah, that Bears offensive line is still decent, but nowhere near that Eagles. So I like that. The next guy I'm going to go to is another receiver. A lot of people are high on this team. I really like this team, but when you add talent, some players are due for regression, and I'm going with Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. Nico Collins was a huge part to CJ Stroud, having the season he did, but also CJ Stroud, helped break Nico Collins out. But with that being said, assuming everyone stays healthy, you add a fully healthy Tank Dell back into the mix. That was the wide receiver one before he went down with injury. You also add Stephon Diggs to this room, who is a guy that wants his targets. Isn't shy about it, going to Twitter or whatever. So it's not that Nico and there's going to be film on CJ Stroud. They're going to be trying to stop Nico Collins a little bit more. They're going to focus on him, but there's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense. So like similar, Joe Mixon, he wants his touches. So once again, nothing with Nico Collins. He's still going to have a good season, but I'm not going to expect him to get the 1,200 yards he did last year. I would, expect a little bit under 1,000, just because you're adding Diggs, who's a 1,000-yard receiver. You're adding Tank Dell, who was a 1,000-yard receiver before injury, and who was the wide receiver one before going down. And then, Joe Mixon. You still have, I believe, Dalton Schultz there catching passes at the tight end position. So overall, a lot of moving parts with this Texans offense and a lot of expectations. But when you have this stacked of wide receiver room, I kind of tend to stay away from stuff like that. But could just be me.
You could be right. He might not even have a bad year. It's just he won't have an explosive year like he had last year.
I don't people might say he's going to build off last year even more and get.
Yeah, no, I can't. I agree with you there. Like he's not going to have a 1,400-yard year, especially with Stephon Diggs coming in and Joe Mixon being added to the table. I agree with that one.
Yeah. All right. So Nick, who is your second pick?
All right, my second pick is he's a quarterback, first quarterback on my list. And it's kind of tough to say underperformance because the past few years, or at least last year, we didn't get to see him perform, and the year before, he was kind of disappointing. But I think he still has high expectations, and I think he's just not going to meet them. It's Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the Jets. I know Jets fans are, they got to see him for literally like 4 plays last year. So they're pushing the agenda with him like, hey, we want you to, throw for 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 5 picks. And I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think he's going to have a lot of, 200-yard games, one or maybe 2 touchdown games. He'll probably have a breakout game or two, probably against the Patriots or some garbage team like that. But I don't think he's going to, put up the Aaron Rodgers numbers he put up in Green Bay with Devontae Adams. And he's even said it, like his down years are other guys' career years, and that might be the case this year, but I don't think he's going to be anybody's, go-to starting fantasy quarterback. We're talking strictly fantasy. I don't think he's going to be, Aaron Rodgers level.
Yeah, I love that pick. Just the Jets, I can never trust them, and I'm not going to be the one. A lot of people fall for it even this year. They're telling division winners and stuff like that. I need to see it before it actually happens. Aaron Rodgers missing out on mandatory mini camp because of some excuse. It's very weird there. Hassan Reddick hasn't gotten a new deal, didn't show up. So it's just very toxic with the Jets already, and the season hasn't even started. So what else is new in Jets land? With that being said, though, my third player, I'm going to go with another receiver. Going to go with a guy I loved. I mean, I still love him. Was one of the reasons why I was top of my league last year. Michael Pittman. I feel like he benefited a lot from Gardner Minshew playing most of the year because Gardner Minshew isn't that mobile, and Michael Pittman was just a safety blanket every time. Even if it was a reception for only 4 yards, he'd get like 5 of those a game, which is like it was like adding up like 8 extra points. And Gardner Minshew was looking for him all the time. Well, Michael Pittman's numbers in the beginning of the year were still good with Anthony Richardson. They were kind of nowhere near what Gardner Minshew was feeding him throughout the majority of the season. And now the Colts had A.D. Mitchell in the draft, who I think is going to be, a big production in the second round. Josh Downs is entering, I believe, his second or third year. I'm expecting him to take another step. So overall, just the QB change. Anthony Richardson's very mobile. Instead of, getting the safe security blanket, he might scramble some more and kind of, run it himself instead of, throwing it to Michael Pittman. So I think just he benefited a lot from Gardner Minshew being his quarterback, just for fantasy purposes. I mean, Michael Pittman helped elevate Gardner Minshew a lot just by being the great receiver he is. But he did benefit a lot from just getting a lot more targets with Gardner Minshew than, say, Anthony Richardson throughout a full season. And also just adding A.D. Mitchell, another weapon. This is an underrated receiver room because Josh Downs was really solid last year. Shane Steichen will find a way to scheme up, but I just don't think, he doesn't get the touchdown production that, a lot of people expect. And because Jonathan Taylor is still there and you got to feed him the ball. And Anthony Richardson can obviously run it in for a touchdown if necessary. So just kind of the all-around fit. He's still, a beast, but I feel like, I'll take him in probably a round or two later than I would have, like, if I knew Gardner was his QB.
That's a really good point you make about, people don't think about that. They just look at the bare bones, numbers he put up last year. They're like, oh, he was good last year. I'm going to draft him, in the second or third round. But you don't think about when a backup quarterback's in, he's looking for his best weapon and he's just going to throw the ball at him no matter what. Like, you're just going to feed that guy. It's not going to be like an Anthony Richardson who's really working on feeding all his targets, running the ball, all that sort of stuff. So that's a good pick. That's something that people don't think about a lot when it comes to fantasy.
I love the respect.
Of course. I know you got ball knowledge. So now my third pick is another wide receiver. So we're kind of piling on the wide receivers, or at least you are. So I'll add one on.
Yeah.
I think he's your guy, or he's one of your guys that you're a fan of. So I don't know if you'll like this pick, but I have Calvin Ridley having kind of a down year. He just got a big bag from the Titans. Unfortunately, picked the Titans over the Patriots, but, I respect it. It's understandable. But I think he's just – last year he had, pretty high expectations. I think he was – especially after week one. For week one, I drafted him last year. And after, I think, week one, he had like 30 points or something. He had like 2 touchdowns, 80 yards. I was like, oh, shit. Like, he's going to be my steal of a wide receiver one. And just he was so up and down, inconsistent. And I just don't see that changing with the quarterback situation he went into. Like, it's not like he went to a better quarterback. Like, I would have rathered him just stay with Trevor Lawrence if I was talking about him fantasy-wise. But who knows? Maybe Will Levis being young and DeAndre Hopkins getting a little older, maybe he'll just start feeding the ball to his new receiver toy that they bought him. But I don't know. Just I think they got spread out weapons. They have DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and who's their third wide receiver? I know they sign Tyler Boyd.
Yep, they did. So
and they have Treylon Burks, I believe. So they've got a lot of weapons there. So I just don't know if he's going to have the 1,200, 1,400 yard year or whatever. Maybe he'll probably crack 1,000 just because he's a super talented receiver. But I think he's not going to be like anybody's wide receiver. Definitely not wide receiver 1, and maybe not wide receiver 2.
Yeah, but I like that pick. Next one I'm going to, my first running back, Raheem Mostert, Miami Dolphins. Last year, one of those players that I think Raheem Mostert's better, but it reminds me similar to Jamal Williams of the Detroit Lions in 2022, where he was just a red zone guy. Raheem Mostert, 18 touchdowns last year, had slightly over 1,000 yards, very identical to Jamal Williams 2022. He's not going to get that same red zone success that helped elevate him this past year. He's not going to get 18 touchdowns again. And if Devon Achane's healthy, I think it's going to be a split between the two. Raheem Mostert's age, he's also getting another year older. I believe he's like 31, 32. So I think he's just primed for some regression there alone, just because it's hard to get 18 touchdowns, let alone, that amount in back-to-back years. So I just think the sustainability of all those touchdowns won't keep up with those yards. I would expect, maybe like a 7 to 9 touchdown year compared to like the 18 he had. I think that's going to be like cut in half. And if Achane plays and is healthy, especially another reason why he probably won't even reach 1,000 yards again.
Yeah. I mean, running backs, the age, father time jumps on you quick when you're a running back. Like those knees don't hold up forever.
Injuries too for Raheem has also been in his realm. So,
yeah. Like if Achane can stay on the field, like he's unbelievably explosive. Like he's arguably the fastest guy in the league, along with his own teammate. So I think if he can stay on the field, he's going to get a large majority of the carries because he was popping off, what was it, like 8 yards a carry before his injury? He was putting up like 200 yards.
Real stuff. Yeah,
right.
Really.
The kid flies. So I definitely see that happening. Maybe he'll be a red zone guy, though, like you said, with Jamal Williams, just like the power back type of stuff. Because Achane's kind of a smaller running back, if I'm not mistaken. So, but we'll see with that Dolphins offense, that they're not really built on power. They're built on just running right by you.
Yep, exactly.
The next pick I have, another receiver. Maybe you'll be on board with this one. I don't know. I think you might have picked him to have a breakout year, though. But I picked George Pickens. I think he's not going to have. I don't think he's going to have.
He was one of my breakout guys.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have the jump that people want him to have, and I think it's going to lead to some frustrations on his part because we've seen he can be, pretty emotional player. He's not afraid to show his emotions on the field. And playing with Russ, I think, brings out the worst in players. I think guys get pissed at Russ just because of his corniness, his, Mr. Unlimited, and they're just trying to get touches. But, maybe if Justin Fields for some reason plays and he's just, doing what he did with DJ Moore and just constantly throwing him the football, I don't know if Russ is going to do that. I think Russ's better days are past him, and we saw that in Denver, and he did feed Courtland Sutton sometimes, but I don't know. Maybe Pickens is just so talented that he can overcome that, but I don't know. Maybe he'll scratch like 1,100 yards. I don't know. I could be wrong too.
I just am high on him. I think new situation as much as we hate on Russ, he did improve last year, but I just think that whole system, the whole situation was messed up, and I think Russ will just at least feed him the ball because when you trade Deontay Johnson away, he really is the only mouth you can feed. So that's kind of just someone I'm looking at for, to break out. But, we'll see what happens. We'll see quickly.
I hope these guys prove me wrong too because I don't like being a hater. I don't like hating on players, but we got to make our predictions. Like not everybody's going to have a great year. Otherwise, there would be no defense.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that. At the end of the day, it is very interesting to see. Now, with my last player, there was kind of a couple of different ways I want to go, but I'm going to try and fit in a QB for the last spot because I already did three running backs or three receivers and running back. My fifth guy, I'm going to go with QB. He's your guy. I just don't like how they're already putting him in the situation. I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. They're really kind of drafting him on the Fantasy Pros as the 13th QB and ahead of players like Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins. For me, Jaden Daniels is a guy that would have a breakout next year. We could be here next year or in 2 years and, talking about that, like, leap he took with his running ability and his passing. But I just don't think the Commanders have the offensive line, the weapons outside Terry McLaurin, the coaching. I'm not quite 100% sure Dan Quinn is a head coach. There's just a lot of huge question marks, red flags that aren't even necessarily Jaden Daniels' fault. I just don't know how people can already have him that high, even with his dual threat ability, considering the Commanders' infrastructure we all know isn't that good for most rookie QBs. So it'll be interesting to see. I like Jaden Daniels. I hope he proves me wrong, but I mean, there's still a lot to be desired with that roster for him to have a good rookie season, even.
Yeah, that's insane. They have him over guys like Jared Goff, who, when he literally doesn't have an offensive line. Like,
yeah,
I'm
his
worried
number
for
one
his
is
health.
Terry McLaurin. Like, Terry's good, but yeah, I mean, it's like if I would still take, even in the tier 4, Stafford. I would still even probably take someone like Sam Darnold because of their situation. It's just, all about situation. But we'll see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, Jaden really does turn that franchise around day one like CJ Stroud, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. I worry for his health, like, just because I am a fan of his, and with that offensive line and how beat up Sam Howell got. Like, Jaden Daniels isn't exactly the biggest dude. Like, he's a guy that's going to try and run around you, not run through you. Sam Howell is kind of a bigger guy, so he could take some of those hits, but still, like, it wears you down no matter how tough you are. It's going to wear on you when you got 300-pound defensive ends just smoking you every single play. But, yeah, I agree with that pick. If he's thrown into the fire right away, people are going to expect him to, be like Lamar and just run all over the place, throw all over the place, and he's not going to be able to do that. So I agree. My last pick is also a quarterback from the AFC East. So I have 2 AFC East quarterbacks. Not Josh Allen, but Tua Tagovailoa. I think even with as good as that offense has been, I think he's just not going to – like, defenses are slowly going to start learning how to, take away all those deep balls, and he'll get his numbers probably from, throwing, 5-yard, 10-yard slants to Tyreek or Jalen Waddle and just watching them run. But I think he's going to kind of be a pick machine. I think teams
is that a little Patriots bias pick, Seven?
I mean, I think he's what, 5-0 against the Patriots in his career, or something like that, 6-0.
Yeah.
So I can't even say that the Patriots are going to beat him up, because they'll probably light him up. The Dolphins will probably kill us again, but I just don't see any more progression out of Tua. I don't see him getting any better than what he was last year.
Yeah, I feel like teams are really going to lock in on those middle reads because he struggles with the outside numbers.
Yep.
But we'll have to see. But with that, fantasy coming up soon. Probably going to do. I know we're going to do a draft. Got a lot of drafts coming up in a month and a half or so. But yeah, so here's our list of potential fantasy underperformers. It has nothing to do with these players. Most of these players on this list are still really good or good. Just some names to keep an eye on. But let us know in the comments, what you agree, disagree with, who did we miss. It'll be interesting for debate. But with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.